Hey y'all, I'm Jay Withrow. So glad you are here with me to learn how to elevate your strumming. Strumming is so crucial, so critical to how your playing feels, how it hits listeners. But what I've noticed is that there are a lot of guitarists that don't really think about this aspect of their playing very much. And so oftentimes adjectives that could describe their playing are things like, it's okay, or they just get by, or maybe it's just bland. And so I don't want that for you, because our strumming should sound nuanced. It should sound powerful yet gentle. It should be professional. It should be, incredible, like engaging for people to listen to, because it's where the energy is coming from in your playing. So there's going to be some things I talk about today in this video that maybe you've never thought of, actually. There's a lot of bad habits that get started really early, and so I want to make sure none of those exist in your strumming anymore, and that everything is well-oiled, so to speak. So let's do this thing. So the first place we want to start, the deepest level we need to dig to elevate our strumming, is this little guy right here, this pick. What I want you to do is make sure you have a medium pick. I would say somewhere between the 0.6 millimeter and 1 millimeter range. This is 0.73. I find that a lot of guitarists out there who are compensating for bad strumming are using picks that are really, really thin, because anything else seems like it's really laboring their strumming. So this is the first point of contention with developing great strumming, is the actual pick you're using. You want to have it thick enough that if we want to be aggressive, we can be. We can get enough attack out of it because the pick is thick enough. But really, if we want to play soft and smooth, that comes from the technique we have with our hand, not necessarily the thickness of the pick. So I would suggest kind of just in the medium range to get started as we learn how to really do this thing and make it smooth. And so if you will hold your pick once you get it with just your thumb and first finger rather than, 3 fingers. Now, if you're really used to that, okay, that's okay. But if you're willing to try it with me, just try holding it with your thumb and first finger. And I find that the less amount of my hand that is touching the pick, normally it encourages the most relaxation. So when I'm strumming, that is what is key to making it sound smooth and quick, is the relaxation of our hand and our muscles just engaging just enough to actually get the job done of strumming. And so I'm holding it right on the end of my first finger. Some people, you can move it to where it's closer to your middle knuckle or wherever. But if you put it way out there on the end, I find that I can manipulate it a little bit, and I like having that kind of control right on the tip of my finger. So you might try that with me if you haven't tried it before. So as I start to strum, what I want to do is visualize a stream flowing down out of a mountain. This nice, beautiful, cold, flowing stream. And there's all these rocks that make the rock bed of the stream. And that water, instead of forcing itself through the rocks, is just quickly flowing over each rock. That's what our pick is. We don't want to force it through the string like this. We don't want to feel like we're having to push it through, but really the pick is just gliding, flowing like water over rocks. When we relax that hand, it allows the pick to slightly change angles. If you're really having a hard time holding your pick too tightly, try to strum to where the pick actually falls out of your hand, and then just grip it tight enough to where it's not actually falling out. That's the threshold. That's where you want to be. And then as you strum, that pick just changes angles slightly, and it flows right over. If I don't hold it lightly, but I hold it really tight, listen to how heavy this sounds. I'm going to play a G chord. Listen how this sounds. Heavy, light, heavy, light. That's a really massive difference. So maybe you're noticing that already in your playing. Also, if you tend to ball your fingers up like this, try relaxing them and letting them dangle down loosely. This is another great thing you can experiment with to try to help you relax that hand. All right, so now let's move on to think about the rest of our arm. I like to put a little bit of engagement into each part of my arm. You'll notice that it moves a little bit from my elbow, that my wrist twists just a little bit, and even there's a little bit of play in my thumb and first finger as I strum up and down. And all those things add to that flowing motion. So make sure, put your mind kind of on each of those areas, your elbow, your wrist, your fingers, and just take note of how things feel. Is there any tension at all? And then if there is, just release it. And I'm telling you, this will absolutely transform your playing, just thinking about these things and making sure that it's relaxed. Well, now that our strumming is smoothed out, let's start to make it faster, quicker, to where we're able to still play smoothly but go really fast. Something like this, where you're... Or maybe something like this. Something like that. So when you're playing slow, it's easy because you can strum all 6 strings, no problem. But when you start to go faster, it starts to sound too loud. We'd rather it sound like this rather than this. This is achieved through the angle that our pick is moving at when we go down or up. What I'm doing is, instead of hitting all 6 strings, I'm just hitting my thicker strings on the way down and my thinner strings on the way up. Kind of sounds like that. And then I start to speed it up. This helps the volume not to get out of control, helps it to sound balanced, yet it's still really quick. So a part of this is just working on kind of the combination of what your wrist is doing, how your finger's holding the pick, just kind of the angles that you're moving your hand at. Instead of going, straight up and down, you kind of angle it out just a little bit as you go down, and then angle it in the exact reverse way coming back up. And it'll help you just hit the thick, thin, like that. So that's just something that you would want to practice and work on and mess with those angles for how your hand is built. And that's how you start to get quick, is now that your hand is relaxed, you're able to actually not beat the strings to death, and then you can start to speed it up as you work on the angle of your hand, and you can play all these quick strumming patterns. For this one, what I'm kind of doing here is I'm going thick strings, then I do a full strum, and then when I do these last up downs, it's just the thinner string. So it's like thick, then all, thin, thin, thick, all, thin, thin, thick, all, thin. Wow, there's a lot of dynamics in that strumming. Dynamics is just the difference between loud and soft. It's very dynamic sounding. And so I really enjoy making sure that all my strumming has that kind of energy to it and that excitement. So now that you're really developing a smoothness in your technique and strumming, let's talk about how to put those together so that everything sounds completely natural. How do we get it to where our strumming doesn't sound forced? It doesn't sound artificial, but everything is coming from kind of this internal place of rhythm, and you and the rhythm are one. It really is possible. If you feel it's not, it really is. You just have to know how to train your mind, feed your brain in such a way that it can actually build and grow and learn how to do that. And I found that one of the greatest ways to do that is by putting 2 things together simultaneously. One is just the movement of your arms strumming to a consistent beat, but the other thing that happens at the same time is you say the beats out loud. So for instance, if I count in 8th notes, I'll just mute my strings and I'll count like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So what I want you to do is to try this along with me. I'm going to start really slow. You just mute your strings, and then I'll start to speed up and notice if there's a point where the words you're saying get out of sync with your hand. Our hand is always moving down on numbers and up on ands. 1 and 2 and, like that. So let's try it. Maybe 4 bars of this. Here we go. And then well, maybe 2 bars at one speed, and then I'll start to speed it up. Here we go. Ready and play, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Speed it up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. A little faster. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Right? So there might be a place along the way where you're like, I couldn't keep up with it. Well, that's at that place that you want to work. That's where that internalization point is for you to sync your words with your movements. And once you practice this, if you do this daily, you will develop yourself to where eventually you can go as fast as you want and everything will be perfectly synced. And then you're really internalizing the rhythm. Well, now we can take it a step further and really get into the essence of a strumming pattern by doing a little rhythmic game, as I call it. So let's think about beat number 4, and let's take away beat number 4, or our hand's gonna move, but we're just gonna silently strum on beat number 4. So it'll sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. So try to do that with me. I'll start it slower. Let's let our hands silently go down on 4. It's just the pick's not gonna rake across the strings. Go ready and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and, right? Well, let's go a step further. Let's drop also beat number 3. Hand's gonna move, we're just not gonna hit it. So beats 3 and 4 now. Ready and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. All right, let's change it up a little bit. Let's do the second beat and the and after the second beat. So take those 2 out, but 3 and 4 come back in. So dropping 2 and. Here we go. Ready and 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and. Now you can keep playing this game, right? You could do it with 16th notes. We haven't done 16th notes, but you count them 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, and it would sound like this: 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. And so that's the other way that we strum oftentimes in rhythm guitar playing. So you can play this game with either of those. Maybe you write it down on a piece of paper, circle certain beats that you want to drop out, let your hand move, they just silently strum. This will develop your sense of rhythm. I mean, you can make some really hard rhythms. I'm not gonna go into all of them today in this video, but you can do some really advanced stuff just by kind of playing this rhythmic game with your mind, feeding it, and then just keep doing this, and it will help you to internalize the rhythm. Well, guys, that was awesome. So glad to be able to focus on something that maybe you hadn't thought about in a long time, is just your strumming technique. Please leave comments. Please like and subscribe if you want to support this channel. Really appreciate it. And a couple more videos that'll come out. One, I will do, I'll be talking about how to create groove with your strumming using mutes, as well as double strumming. How do we do those quicker strums, actually internalize it where it feels very natural? We'll focus on all those things and more. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you at those lessons.